13 feet. That is the exact same dimension as the money pit.
I believe in Zena Halpern's work. I believe that the map represents some features on the island. Is it possible that this might be the hatch? There are a lot of possibilities on this island.
For over 2 centuries, Oak Island has guarded its secrets beneath layers of earth, stone, and legend. Knights Templar treasure, pirate gold, lost relics, countless hunters have come close, only to be turned back by the island's deadly defenses. But now, modern technology has revealed hidden chambers, ancient coins, and traces of gold that could rewrite history. Each discovery brings the team closer to solving one of the world's greatest treasure mysteries, but also deeper into danger. Before we uncover the truth behind Oak Island's most shocking finds yet, make sure you subscribe and join the hunt, because what's coming next will change everything. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dig site, the air thick with anticipation. The crew had been combing the area for hours, scanning every inch of the ground with precision. Dust clung to their boots, and the steady hum of the metal detector was the only sound breaking the quiet. Then, suddenly, Jack Adams straightened up, his eyes locked on the small screen in his hands. He turned toward the others and called out, "Hey, I've got a metal target." His voice carried just enough urgency to make everyone stop what they were doing. The words weren't shouted, but they had weight, enough to turn heads instantly. The detector's tone had changed from a dull chirp to a sharp, insistent signal. In moments, the crew gathered around him, each step crunching softly on the dirt. Jack pointed to a small, marked spot on the ground, a faint X scratched into the soil with the toe of his boot. The readings were clear. Something metallic was buried here, just deep enough to be interesting, and just shallow enough to be within reach. The find sparked more than just curiosity. This was Oak Island, a place where every piece of metal could be a relic, a clue, or the key to unlocking a centuries-old puzzle. Over the years, countless hunters had spoken of buried gold, ancient artifacts, and traps designed to keep trespassers away. Could this be another part of that legend? Memories of past discoveries came flooding back. The mysterious booby traps rigged to flood tunnels, the whispers of treasure chests hidden beneath the swamp's murky depths, the half-buried relics that seemed to vanish as quickly as they were found. Every dig here had the potential to change history, or to be just another dead end. But as the crew prepared to dig, the air shifted. Excitement was mingled with caution. Whatever was down there could be fragile, dangerous, or both. Still, they knew one thing for certain. Moments like this were why they came to Oak Island. And this time, something about Jack's find felt different. Long before Jack Adams ever walked this ground, long before modern technology began scanning the island's secrets, Oak Island had already carved its name into history as one of the world's most enduring treasure mysteries. The story begins in 1795, when 3 young men, Daniel McGuinness, John Smith, and Anthony Vaughan, stumbled upon something unusual on the island's eastern end. It was nothing dramatic at first glance, just a shallow depression in the earth, partially overgrown with grass. But for reasons they could never fully explain, the sight compelled them to dig. Perhaps it was instinct, perhaps it was luck, or perhaps it was the island itself, whispering to them that something lay hidden beneath their feet. What they found was unlike anything they, or anyone in Nova Scotia, had seen before. Just a few feet down, their shovels struck wood. They pried it loose, revealing a carefully constructed wooden platform. Beneath that, more soil. And then 10 feet deeper, another platform. The pattern repeated. Timber, soil, timber again, every 10 feet. Someone had built this with purpose. Someone had gone to incredible lengths to bury something here. The men dug as far as they could, but the deeper they went, the harder it became. Eventually they had to stop, but the legend of what they'd discovered began to spread. Soon, the shaft earned its name, the Money Pit. Treasure seekers from across North America and beyond would arrive in the decades to come, each hoping to be the one to finally reach whatever lay at the bottom. But Oak Island would not give up its secrets so easily. As the years passed, a terrifying pattern emerged. Every time a team reached a certain depth, the pit would flood with icy seawater, seemingly from nowhere, forcing them to abandon their work. Later explorers uncovered evidence of elaborate flood tunnels, channels carved through the bedrock itself and leading directly from the nearby ocean. The implication was chilling. Whoever built the Money Pit had designed it as a trap. The deeper you dug, the closer you came to triggering a deadly rush of water. It was a mechanical defense centuries ahead of its time, and it hinted at something of extraordinary value buried far below. Over the next 200 years, Oak Island would claim more than fortunes. It would claim lives. At least 6 men would die in pursuit of the treasure, adding a dark layer to the island's legend. And yet the lure of gold, relics, and forgotten history never faded. Governments, private investors, and even famous personalities would take their turn, convinced they were the ones who would succeed where so many had failed. From pirate gold to lost manuscripts, from sacred relics to the fabled treasure of the Knights Templar, theories multiplied. The only thing every seeker could agree on was this: something extraordinary was buried on Oak Island, and it was protected by the most ingenious traps of the age. Today, that centuries-old obsession lives on, and as Jack Adams stands over his mysterious metal target, the echoes of 1795 feel closer than ever. The question remains: will history finally surrender its greatest secret? For more than 2 centuries, Oak Island has been a breeding ground for speculation, where fact and folklore blend so seamlessly that it's often impossible to tell them apart. And perhaps that's part of its magic. Every clue, every scrap of evidence unearthed here seems to point in a dozen different directions at once. One of the oldest and most enduring theories ties Oak Island to the Knights Templar, the mysterious order of warrior monks who, according to legend, amassed vast wealth during the Crusades. Some believe the Templars, facing persecution in the 14th century, fled Europe with their treasures and sought refuge in the New World. Maps, cryptic symbols carved into stones, and even strange crosses found on the island have been cited as possible Templar markers, suggesting that Oak Island might be the final resting place of the Order's most sacred relics, perhaps even the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. Others trace the mystery to the golden age of piracy, when ruthless sea captains roamed the Atlantic in search of plunder. In particular, the name Captain William Kidd is whispered with reverence and suspicion. Kidd, a Scottish pirate executed in 1701, was rumored to have hidden a portion of his enormous fortune before his capture. The elaborate booby traps on Oak Island, some argue, could be the work of a man determined to protect his hoard from both rivals and the authorities. There are those who go further still, proposing that Oak Island was once home to a lost civilization, an advanced people whose knowledge of engineering allowed them to construct the pit and its flood tunnels with uncanny precision. To them, the treasure may not be gold or jewels, but priceless knowledge, ancient scrolls, artifacts, or technology lost to history. Perhaps the most tantalizing theory suggests that Oak Island hides secret manuscripts or a hidden vault, documents that could rewrite history. These could range from Shakespeare's lost works to coded religious texts or state secrets carried across the ocean in the dead of night. Some believers claim that such a vault, if discovered, would shake the very foundations of what we think we know about the past. Over the decades, countless expeditions have been mounted to solve the puzzle, from well-funded corporations to lone adventurers driven by obsession. They brought drills, pumps, and even dynamite to battle the island's defenses. And yet time and again, the Money Pit and its surrounding terrain proved victorious, flooding, collapsing, or swallowing up tools and machinery in a matter of moments. Each failure added to the island's legend, weaving a tapestry of frustration and fascination that has only deepened with time. Even the failures have become part of the story. Strange artifacts, coins, links of chain, fragments of parchment have emerged over the years, each one tantalizing enough to keep the hunt alive, but never definitive enough to solve the mystery. Skeptics call them meaningless debris. Believers call them proof that they're getting close. And so, the rumors endure. Is Oak Island the final chapter in a saga of knights, pirates, and kings? Is it a vault of priceless relics, or merely an elaborate hoax built to fool the world? The answers remain buried, waiting for the one discovery that will finally put centuries of speculation to rest. As Jack Adams and the modern search team prepare to dig into their newly detected metal target, they carry not just shovels and machinery, but the weight of every dreamer who has come before them. One strike of the spade could either crush a legend or confirm it forever. 2 centuries of mystery have taught treasure hunters one hard truth. Oak Island doesn't surrender its secrets easily. But Rick and Marty Lagina came to the island determined to succeed where generations had failed, armed not only with passion, but with 21st century technology. In the early years of their search, they realized that brute force alone would never conquer the Money Pit. Past teams had tried digging massive shafts, draining the swamp, even blasting through with dynamite, efforts that often ended in disaster. The Laginas instead embraced precision. Their plan was to see the unseen, to map what lay beneath, without disturbing it until the moment was right. Using advanced sonar and ground-penetrating radar, they began scanning the island's subsoil layer by layer. Every pulse of the machines painted a ghostly picture of what was hidden far below, voids, chambers, and strangely uniform shapes that didn't belong to nature. Underground scanning revealed what appeared to be a network of tunnels, some stretching toward the swamp, others fanning out from the Money Pit area like the spokes of a wheel. It wasn't just empty space they were detecting. Core samples pulled from deep beneath the surface brought up ancient timber, precisely cut and still remarkably preserved. Experts confirmed that the wood was centuries old. Some sections matched the known flood tunnel designs described in historical accounts, suggesting that these were the same booby-trap channels designed to guard the treasure from intrusion. Then came a discovery that ignited the team's imagination. Stone fragments bearing strange, carved symbols. The markings didn't match any local tradition or known colonial script. Some historians pointed out eerie similarities to Templar codes, cryptic inscriptions believed to hide messages in plain sight. Could these symbols be instructions, warnings, or even a map left by the original builders? The team's technology-driven approach didn't stop with mapping and excavation. They began conducting water sampling tests from the deepest shafts, analyzing the chemical composition of what seeped into the tunnels. When the results came back, they contained a startling trace element: gold. It wasn't a fluke. Multiple samples confirmed the presence. While the quantities were microscopic, it was enough to suggest that somewhere below, gold was indeed present, perhaps trapped in sediment or eroded from a much larger cache. Each new clue deepened the mystery. The sonar maps told a story of deliberate engineering, tunnels and chambers carefully placed to mislead or protect. The timber samples hinted at builders with shipwright-level skills, perhaps men accustomed to working on massive vessels or hidden fortifications. The stone inscriptions whispered of an international connection, a secret purpose tied to old-world traditions. And the traces of gold, tiny but undeniable, were the promise that something of immense value might still lie buried. For Rick and Marty, the stakes could not be higher. With every scan, every core, every coded carving, they edge closer to confirming the existence of a treasure that has eluded the world for over 200 years. But on Oak Island, nothing is ever simple. The deeper they dig, the more the island pushes back, collapsing tunnels, flooding chambers, and offering just enough to keep the dream alive without giving up the ultimate prize. Now, as the Jack Adams find looms on the horizon, the modern tools that have mapped the island's hidden heart may finally be put to the test. For the Laginas, this isn't just about gold, it's about rewriting history itself. And Oak Island, as always, is holding its breath. On Oak Island, even the smallest discovery can speak volumes, and sometimes a single inch of soil can connect centuries of history. That's exactly what happened on Lot 5, a stretch of land tucked away from the money pit, yet still steeped in mystery. For Rick Lagina and Gary Drayton, the island's metal-detecting expert, Lot 5 offered something tantalizing: signals in the ground that didn't match ordinary debris. The day began like so many others, with the slow, sweeping arc of Gary's detector, its steady hum broken by the occasional chirp. But when the machine suddenly spiked into a high, sharp tone, both men knew they were onto something. Gary knelt, his trowel cutting carefully through the dirt, revealing the first glint of metal. It was a coin. Time and corrosion had dulled its surface. But under the careful eye of the team, its composition was revealed. Bronze made up of 94% copper and 5% silver. The remaining trace elements hinted at ancient metallurgy techniques. It wasn't Roman, but it wasn't modern either. Its origins were unclear, but its age was undeniable. Whoever had dropped it had done so centuries, perhaps even a millennium before. Encouraged, Rick and Gary pressed on. Hours later, the detector sang again. Another target, another dig. This time, the coin that emerged was different. A copper silicon-lead tin alloy. To most, it was just a jumble of metals. But to experts, the mix was familiar. It matched the signature of ancient Roman coins, though this find was far from Europe. Theories began to swirl. Had the Knights Templar, rumored to possess Roman artifacts, carried such coins across the Atlantic? Was this evidence of a medieval voyage to the New World, centuries before Columbus? Then came the third signal, a deep, stubborn tone that took longer to pinpoint. When the coin was finally freed from the earth, its makeup told a story all its own: copper, silver, iron, and manganese. Analysis confirmed it was a French denier, minted in the 13th century. This was no random find. It was the same era and likely the same cultural sphere as the mysterious lead cross unearthed on the island years earlier. The denier's connection to Templar strongholds in France only deepened the intrigue. 3 coins, 3 compositions, 3 potential origins spanning continents and centuries. Were they dropped by separate visitors to Oak Island at different points in history? Or had they traveled together, carried in a pouch by someone who had walked these shores long before modern maps and borders? For Rick and Gary, the implications were staggering. The coins suggested that Oak Island's history wasn't the story of a single voyage or a single treasure. It was a crossroads, a place visited by multiple groups, perhaps for different purposes, each leaving behind traces of their presence. As the team packed up for the day, the weight of the finds settled in. On their own, each coin was an artifact. Together, they were a clue, one that hinted at a layered history where Templar knights, medieval French traders, and ancient mariners might all share the same stage. And on Oak Island, that stage is still set, waiting for the next act to unfold. On Oak Island, there are moments when the evidence shifts from speculation to something tangible, something that forces the team to stop and reconsider the scale of the mystery. One such moment came during the exploration of the garden shaft, a narrow, vertical tunnel that has become one of the most promising points of interest on the island. The work began as a routine sampling. Sections of ancient wood, pulled carefully from deep within the shaft, were sent for laboratory testing. The goal was simple: identify the age of the timber and determine if it matched other known construction materials from the island's network of tunnels. But when the results came back, they revealed something entirely unexpected. The wood itself contained 0.11% gold. It was not a random flake, nor the result of surface contamination. The gold was embedded in the very fibers of the timber. This meant one thing: the wood had been in direct contact with gold for an extended period. Whether that gold was in the form of bars, coins, or gilded artifacts, the implication was clear. Something valuable had once rested in or near the garden shaft. The discovery reignited theories that the shaft might have been part of a deliberate vault system, built not merely to hide treasure, but to protect it with elaborate engineering and traps. The gold traces were a silent testimony to what might still lie deeper below. But the garden shaft's secrets didn't end with the gold. During excavation, the team uncovered ornate religious relics, items unlike anything typically found on a colonial settlement site. Among them were intricately crafted crosses, some of gold and silver, others inlaid with enamel patterns that hinted at medieval or earlier origins. There were also ceremonial artifacts, items that might have been used in sacred rites or as symbols of high authority. These finds were not discarded trinkets. They were objects of power and meaning. And their presence on Oak Island suggested that whoever buried them was not simply hiding wealth. They were safeguarding something sacred. Theories rushed to fill the gap. Some experts pointed to early European explorers who might have carried religious items across the Atlantic for protection or consecration of new lands. Others saw the unmistakable shadow of the Knights Templar, whose historical record is intertwined with both vast treasures and holy relics. If the Templars had indeed fled Europe with their riches and relics in the early 1300s, Oak Island's hidden vaults could very well have been their final destination. For Rick and Marty Lagina, the convergence of gold traces and sacred relics was a turning point. It was no longer just about the possibility of coins or pirate treasure. It was about uncovering a chapter of human history that might connect continents, faiths, and centuries. The island was speaking in fragments: gold dust in ancient timber, a cross buried in the mud, a ceremonial artifact resting where no one should have been able to place it. As the garden shaft excavation continued, the sense of deliberate design became impossible to ignore. Someone had gone to extraordinary lengths not only to bury these items, but to ensure they would remain hidden for generations. Whether it was the work of a secretive order, a wealthy explorer, or an unknown power from history's shadows, one truth had become impossible to deny. Oak Island still has stories to tell, and each new find is another step toward the heart of the mystery. For every clue Oak Island reveals, it seems to pose two more questions. The discoveries so far: coins spanning continents, gold traces embedded in ancient timber, ornate relics hinting at sacred origins, paint a picture far richer and more complex than anyone first imagined. But they also raise the most tantalizing question of all. Are these artifacts part of a much larger hidden cache? If the coins, relics, and gold traces are linked, they could represent the scattered remains of a single, deliberate burial. Perhaps the contents of a treasure chamber that was breached centuries ago. Or perhaps they were never scattered at all. Merely pieces of a puzzle designed to mislead, to hide the location of a central vault still untouched beneath the island's surface. Some historians and researchers believe the evidence could point to a single, extraordinary event, an organized effort to transport and conceal something of immense value, both material and symbolic. Could this be the work of the Knights Templar, fleeing persecution in Europe? Or perhaps a pirate captain like William Kidd, safeguarding not just gold, but valuable documents or religious artifacts? Could a single moment in history explain the presence of medieval coins, French currency, ancient Roman alloys, and sacred objects on this one remote patch of Nova Scotian soil? And then there is Smith's Cove, a location that has been at the heart of Oak Island's mystery for decades. Past excavations have revealed wooden structures, possible flood tunnel entrances, and curious stone formations, some bearing cryptic marks. Now, ground-penetrating radar and sonar scans suggest there may be a chamber buried deep beneath the cove, a sealed void that has never been explored. The dimensions hint at something more than a natural cavity. Could this be the final vault, the one the flood tunnels were designed to protect? For the Laginas and their team, the situation is both thrilling and maddening. They are closer than ever before, with modern technology stripping away centuries of secrecy layer by layer. Yet Oak Island remains defiant, guarding its final answer as fiercely as it did in 1795. The ground resists, the tunnels shift, water still seeps in, as if the island itself refuses to yield. Each find is a victory, but also a reminder that the real prize, the one capable of answering every question, remains just out of reach. Is it a hoard of gold bars, a chest of sacred relics, a hidden library of manuscripts that could rewrite history, or something so unexpected that it defies every theory ever put forward? As the sun sets over Oak Island, the team pauses at the edge of their latest dig, the cool Atlantic wind carrying with it the weight of centuries. They have coins, they have relics, they have traces of gold, they have the outlines of tunnels and chambers just waiting to be explored. But the real question lingers in the air, like the evening mist. Is this the end of the search, or just the beginning of the greatest discovery in Oak Island's history? The answers lie somewhere beneath their feet, and soon they will dig deeper than ever before.